Hello, my most amazing artist. Welcome back to Art with Miss Hazel. It's been a while, and I have um, recorded some videos for you guys. I hope that you went back and watched them. The last video that Miss Hazel put up for you was for a op art project, which was really cool. We were trying to create an optical illusion to make it look like it's going down into the center. Today you're going to be working on a project where you are using a lot of contrast. Contrast is differences, and the difference is going to be the colors that you're using. It's going to be like black and white, and things are going to be noticeable because there might be something white in a field of a dark color, and then there's black next to white that shows the difference as well. So it creates interest and makes things stand out when you use contrast in your work. So we're going to be drawing a picture that is got lots of contrast, and you're going to be using some um, black and white, and then white on blue for an effect that looks like a winter landscape. So landscape is a picture of something that's outside, and we've talked about landscape before, and we've focused on landscape. But this time we're going to be focused on using contrast within this landscape to be able to make things stand out so that they don't get lost in the picture. So if we were not careful, dark colors can get lost in other dark colors. So we want to make sure that they are very different from each other so they do not get camouflaged. So what you're going to need for this picture is a piece of paper. You're going to need black marker. And if you don't have a black marker, then find a black crayon. You're going to need a gray, and you're going to need a blue for the sky, a very dark blue, because it's going to be a nighttime sky. So gather up your materials and meet me back here for a demonstration of this landscape that is like a nighttime winter landscape. Okay, so if you have your pencil, your paper, you need a gray crayon. Mine broke a little, so I'm going to have to peel it here. That's okay, it still works. I have a black crayon and a blue. So I went back and forth between which blue I really preferred. And I'm going to talk to you a minute about blues and choices. So the sky is blue. In the daytime, it's like a lighter blue. At night, it might be black, but you may see a bluish hue to it. Now, when you're choosing blues for a sky at night, this turquoise color is really pretty, but it's more of a watercolor than it is a sky color. So I actually saw the regular blue and thought, I should use that, but then that's still too much of a daytime kind of blue. So I was going to go with this indigo, which is a bluish purple. So indigo is actually a color on the in the rainbow. It's between blue and purple, so it is a mixture of both of those colors. So that's what I'm going to go with for my colors today. So let's start with pencil. This we can always erase if we make a mistake. We've got a huge eraser here, because I make lots of mistakes. Anyway, so the first step in this landscape is that you want to show the person that's looking at your picture, like I've told you many times before, I know you've heard me say this, you have to separate the sky from the ground so that the viewer knows what areas of the picture they're looking at. So for this picture, we're going to create snow banks of snow, which is just kind of hills of snow that have mounded up on the ground when it snowed. So we're going to draw them progressively further away. So then you're going to create some trees. So when I start doing these trees, I'm going to go right in with my black crayon, but you can sketch these out ahead of time if you'd like, because I'd like you just to be able to see where I'm placing them. So we're talking about placement of objects in the landscape to show where they are in the landscape. If they're in the foreground, that means they're in the front of the picture, they're lower on the page. If they're in the middle ground, they're a little bit higher up. And if they're in the background, they're halfway up the page almost, or more, depending on how much sky you leave. So we're leaving quite a bit of sky because we're going to create a moon, and the trees are going to be silhouetted by the moon, which means they look black in the nighttime. So if a tree is back here, for example, it's going to be a little bit smaller. And that's not a really small tree, but it is going to be compared to the one I'm going to draw in the foreground. So this one's going to be about foreground here. I'm deciding about placement because I want the moon to be here, so I want to make sure that the trees are not in the way of the moon. I want that moon to really stand out. So what we're doing here is we're using lots of contrast. When we do black on white, we've got lots of contrast so you can see what's going on. Now, that's going to change a little when you start creating the sky. So, but we don't want to go too dark with the sky. We just want to make sure that we make it look like a nighttime sky without losing our trees. Our trees will get lost in the darkness of the sky if we're not careful. But we're going to make sure that those trees really stand out. So this one, actually, I'm going to make it a little bit wider just to be in comparison with that tree that's in the background. It needs to really look wider so that it appears like it's closer to us. Bigger and taller is closer, and then higher up and smaller is equals further away to the person who's looking at it. You're tricking their eye. So this one's going to be middle ground. So right here, I'm going to draw another tree. So it should be medium size, not as big as the one in the foreground, but definitely taller than the one over here because that one's a little bit further away. Okay, so make sure you color your trees in nice and dark. After you've drawn them with pencil, make sure you plan out the branches. Don't do too many branches, you'll drive yourself crazy. But the letter Y makes a nice branch. So think of drawing letter Y's when you get to the part where it's branching off, like up here. See, you can find all the Y's in my trees. So I'm going to make one go there just to kind of fill up that space. And be careful because this black crayon will get all over everything. We don't want it all over the snow, especially because the bottom's going to be snow. Next, we're going to draw the moon in pencil. The moon's going to be right here. A full moon. So it's nice and bright at night. The brightest night you can have with a full moon, right? Because you have more light. The moon is not actually putting off light, is it? I think you all learned about that in science. It's really just reflecting the sun. So we are going to do shadows now. So if the moon's here, the shadows are coming away from the moon. So that means this shadow is going to go this way. And I am doing shadows in a gray color. So that shadow is there. Hope you can see that. And then this shadow is coming forward. I did not leave myself room for shadows. I put my tree really far down. That's okay. So there's that shadow. And then this shadow is coming this way, away from the moon. Okay. So we've got shadows on the snow. And I'm going to actually do a little bit of blue lines on my snow just to make the snow kind of stand out. We've got some shadows on the snow, where the snowbanks are kind of shadowy on the back side. The moon is coming down there, causing shadows on the snow. And I'm just doing this very softly. I am barely coloring because I'm going to go back and go the other direction so you can't see all those lines as much. So it looks more like shading. This is called cross hatching, when you cross the lines over top of each other. And I am just, like I said, I am using this indigo color, barely touching the paper, so softly. Okay. Now it's time to color that sky nice and dark so that it looks like the nighttime sky. So here's the part that's going to be the most time consuming. You're going to have to leave a few specks of white in there. I know when we talk about doing the sky or anything that you're supposed to color really nicely, you don't want to leave a lot of white space. But in this case, we're going to intentionally leave white spaces because those are the specks of snow. Okay, so leave white space, but make sure the rest of the coloring is neat. Okay, so make sure you distribute the white spaces. I'm just going to go and do this, and then I'll color around those when I get to that part. Make sure your sky is nice and dark, and if it doesn't look quite dark enough, go back with the like the regular blue, like a layer of the regular blue over it so it's not so purpley, and that might look beautiful too. Oh, I do like that. The blue and the purple together gives it a really cool effect, and that's for, you know, we're trying to make it look nighttime, so it does give a cool effect with the blue and the purple. And you have to make sure you're leaving white spots for the and it's hard to intentionally leave white spots, I've noticed. Like, you automatically want to color them in, and when you try to intentionally leave them, it's a little bit funny to try to do that. So I'm going to have to randomly place my snow. Otherwise, I'm going to accidentally color too much, and then the snow's not going to look like it's falling. It's going to look like it's in big clumps or clusters around the page. So this step, I've seen kids do this to their paper, but they leave the sky white, and then it just looks like a bunch of blue circles, or even appears to be raindrops instead of snow. So sometimes your effects that you're trying to create don't quite work out the way you want them to. Okay, so this is harder than it looks. So basically, you're going to continue this process all the way across the page, and I'm going to fast forward this part.